A modern architecture is all about not just the VMs, it's about what workloads are you putting on that architecture in the future. So today it might be a VM, tomorrow it might be a container, in a year it might be an AI workload. Having a platform that can scale across multiple different types of workloads is key. OpenShift delivers that with the ability to support those types of workloads. Portworx by Everpure supports that by delivering a storage and data management Kubernetes native platform that can scale to support any of those workloads while keeping the data services consistent.
Pure Storage / Everpure just went through a name change. So do you mind giving us just a little bit of background to the Everpure name and your relationship with Red Hat?
Absolutely. So Pure Storage for about 10 years now has been all about disrupting the storage industry. It's about how do we take FlashArray and FlashBlade and really disrupt that traditional storage infrastructure. But as we've seen over the past 2, 3, 4 years, there's been a huge rise in the need for not only storage infrastructure, but data management as well. And with the acquisition of Portworx, with the acquisition of OneTouch, Everpure now is positioned not only to have the storage infrastructure, but the software that can help really define the platform of the future. And of course, right alongside that is Red Hat OpenShift. And so not only has there been a relationship with Portworx and Red Hat OpenShift for many years, Everpure now has expanded that relationship to not only be at the OpenShift level, but now expand to things like FlashArray, FlashBlade, and the entire portfolio.
Awesome. With respect to Portworx, can you talk a little bit around the process, protection, and migration of virtualization workloads to OpenShift?
We're in this really interesting transition phase as customers go from a traditional virtualization platform to a more modern platform. And one of the most important things as they make that transition is, do I have the capabilities necessary to make that transition? Many of those VMs on a traditional platform had backup, recovery, persistence, scalability, high availability, disaster recovery. And so having those in a modern platform is critical. And that's where Portworx comes in. Portworx delivers those data services, those day two operations, the ability to scale, to fail over, to backup, to recover to the OpenShift virtualization platform. So as customers make that transition with their VMs, many of which are data intensive, very heavy workloads, they don't have to worry about losing them. They don't have to worry about outages. They don't have to worry about downtime. That's managed by Portworx in conjunction with everything that OpenShift Virtualization is delivering.
An incredible amount of value to an incredible platform. What a compliment there. Can you talk, I know you've been having some conversations with customers around their virtualization migration and that story. Can you talk a little bit around some of the key considerations that customers are addressing whenever they're looking to migrate to an alternate platform?
Yeah, I think there's really 3 key things we're looking for in a new platform. One is open, right? Having an open platform that decouples you from the risk of vendor lock-in, that keeps you owning the data, keeps you owning the application, keeps you in command of everything you're doing is key. Number 2 is enterprise support and enterprise grade support. Of course, many of these companies are running VMs that are critical to running their business, to running the world in some cases. And so outages have a big impact on people. And number 3 is really, can they scale the platform? Can they make that platform work within the enterprise? And I think that's something that OpenShift is delivering on each one of those. So by definition, OpenShift, of course, is open by design. But not just that, OpenShift is delivering that enterprise support. Red Hat, very well known for the enterprise support, provides a support that can be trusted by enterprises as they scale the business. And that last piece around scale, again, that's something that OpenShift has been around on the container side for a number of years now, proving scale with many large customers. And so virtualization is just expanding that proven record of scaling, and of course, bringing Portworx into the mix to provide that data and storage scaling.
One point that I just want to hit on in particular is the protection aspect of it. Can you talk a little bit around how Portworx and Everpure help with protection with virtualization environments?
Yeah, and let's start one step back, which is, why is protection so important, especially in a virtualization world? So when we think about a virtualization world, many of those VMs are very intensive. They're data intensive. They're running workloads that are important not only to the business, they're important to, in many cases, the broader economy. We're talking about VMs that power banks, VMs that power airlines, VMs that power the entire world. And so we can't afford for downtime. You see what happens when there's outages. You see what happens when applications go down. That's something that businesses simply can't afford. And so having an approach to what happens when there's a disaster. Can I synchronously replicate my data? What happens if I have to asynchronously replicate my data? What happens if I have data centers in different parts of the world or in different regions? And so that's an area where Everpure and Portworx in particular really shines. So we've taken many of those concepts from a traditional world, metro DR, regional DR, and we've brought them to a Kubernetes space. So we can provide customers with things like synchronous DR. You've got two data centers in the same location. We can fail over synchronously between those two data centers. You have one data center located in Europe and another one back in the US. We can asynchronously replicate that data. Or you've got a low tier application, maybe a tier 4 application, and you just want simple backup and recovery. Well, we can back up that recovery. We can store it on the cloud. We can store it on-prem. We can store it in a data center in 2 different parts of the world. Then you can recover it when you want. And so having that holistic approach to protection, having that flexibility to say, my application's tier 1, it needs sync DR, or it's tier 4, it just needs backup and recovery, is really key to being successful in scaling on a virtualization platform like Red Hat OpenShift.